असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय
We are here presenting a new episode in order to help our learners acquire the language, English. Now, the pronunciation of English sounds is different from the pronunciation of the mother tongue sounds. Actually, there are very few sounds which are identical in the mother tongue and also in a foreign language like English. Therefore, we tend to mispronounce many sounds because of the obvious pull of the mother tongue. For instance, Malayalis normally pronounce the sound pa as merely Malayalam pa. But it is really simple and not simple. This is because in Malayalam we don't have the aspirated form of pa. That is an English sound, and therefore we tend to mispronounce the word. Similarly, there are a number of sounds in English which we mispronounce because we tend to identify them with their Malayalam counterparts, if they can be called that way. That is one of the most important difficulties for a Malayalam learner of English to master. Correct pronunciation of a word depends on pronouncing each sound in the correct manner. Sounds in English, as in other languages too, can be generally divided into two, the consonants and the vowels. The vowels are sounds which are produced by the air escaping from the lungs through the mouth cavity without being obstructed in its passage. Ah, oo. These are called vowels. And there are what are called double vowels or diphthongs. In English and in Malayalam, we have diphthongs. But the number of diphthongs in English is 8, while in Malayalam there are only fewer number of diphthongs. I, au, u, ua, air, all these are what we call diphthongs in English. So vowels, double vowels, and then we come to what is called consonants. A consonantal sound is produced by passing the air from the lungs through the mouth cavity with some obstruction at some point in its passage to the outside through the mouth cavity. P, B, K, G. Look at these sounds. P has to be produced by sending the air through the lips close together, p, and it is called a plosive sound, p. But it is different from b in the sense that p we do not call as voiced because the vocal cords are not vibrated by when we produce that. But in the production of b, the sound comes from the lungs, the air comes from the lungs and it vibrates the vocal cords, and therefore we call it voiced. A voiced b is different from an unvoiced p. In sounds in English, we make a distinction among them as voiced and unvoiced. And in general, the vowels and the diphthongs are voiced sounds, and some consonants alone are voiced, while many of the consonants are unvoiced. We are also providing a story which is very interesting. It is the story of a mirror which causes a lot of confusion in a home of a few people. It's really interesting because children will certainly like the conundrum in which the different members of the family are put.
There was a village in India, still remote from the comforts of 20th century life. The people lived off farmlands and grazed their flock in the pastures. In the evenings, they gathered around banyan trees and discussed various matters of interest. Only the young men traveled outside the village seeking jobs in neighboring regions. Women led very conservative lives inside the home. A young man of this village got married to his uncle's daughter, a beautiful woman in her teens. His job involved traveling to distant lands, and consequently, he was often absent from home for long periods. On one such journey, he brought back a shining piece of glass in a metallic frame as a gift for his wife. He did not know what it was, but liked it very much. "Do you like this piece of glass?" "I liked it very much," said the man. "I do too," replied the young wife, thrilled to get a gift from him soon after their marriage. She took a look at it as soon as he left home again and instantly burst out crying. The mother-in-law, who was cutting up vegetables for lunch, was alarmed. She came in to hear the daughter say, "Look, auntie, he has brought home a pretty girl to replace me." The mother-in-law looked at the mirror herself and laughed long and loud. "My dear girl," she said, "he has brought home an old woman with grey hair and hardly any teeth." Just then, the father-in-law returned from the paddy fields. He heard all this commotion and ran in to find the source of the disturbance. "Can't you women stay quiet?" he asked in anger. "I don't see any reason for all this disturbance." "I don't either," replied the harassed mother-in-law, "except that your son has brought home an old woman to keep us all company." "What nonsense!" he yelled. "Can't you see that it is a frail old man and not a woman?" This led to a violent disagreement late into the night. The wife beat her breasts and wailed that she had lost her husband so soon after the wedding, and the mother-in-law reproached her husband for being blind. The father cursed his son under his breath for having brought this devilish object into the house. Naturally, all this commotion woke up the neighbors. One of them, his sleep disturbed by all the wailing and shouting, came in to give them a piece of his mind. "We can't get any sleep in this neighborhood," he screamed. "We can't either," said the father-in-law, and explained the problem of differing views. The neighbor, quite nettled, took a look at the mirror, was further angry at what he saw, and smashed it against the wall. "There," he said, satisfied with the way he had dealt with the matter, "I've got rid of the rascal who was troubling you."
Give an account of life in the village. The village in India was remote from the comforts of the 20th century life. The people lived off farmlands and grazed their flock in the pastures. In the evenings, they gathered around banyan trees and discussed various matters of interest. The young men traveled outside the village seeking jobs in the neighboring regions. Women led very conservative lives inside the home. What did the young man bring his newly wedded wife?
He brought a shining piece of glass in a metallic frame as a gift for his wife.
What was the young wife's response as soon as she looked in the mirror?
The young wife burst out crying and told her mother-in-law that her husband had brought home a pretty woman to replace her.
What did the mother-in-law see in the mirror?
The mother-in-law saw an old woman with grey hair and no teeth.
What did the father-in-law say?
The father-in-law was surprised that they could not make out that it was an old man and not a woman.
How did the matter get resolved?
One of the neighbors, a young man, came in to give them a piece of his mind. The father-in-law explained the problem of differing views. The neighbor took a look at the mirror and was further angry at what he saw and smashed it against the wall. He had got rid of the rascal who was troubling them all.
What message does a mirror convey?
That one sees the reflection of oneself in a mirror.
One of the ways in which we try to expose the children to spoken English is presenting appropriate forms of dialogue. The conversation that we have used in this episode relates to a scene in a textile shop. This is a very common life situation in which pupils, learners of English, will have to indulge in if they visit some foreign country or even some other cities in India like Delhi or Chennai. Well, so conversation gives polite forms of asking for the price, asking for different types of material, and so on.
Please come in. What would you like to buy?
We would like to look at a few cotton sarees.
Here are several varieties of cotton sarees. Do you have anything particular in mind?
I would like to buy a block print saree for my mother.
We have a good collection of cotton sarees which arrived this week.
I don't like very dark colors.
I don't either. I take this cream and black one. How much does this cost?
350 rupees, miss. Which one would you choose, miss?
This is a lovely cream, Lakshma. I like it very much.
I do too. Please pack this.
Would you like to look at churidars, miss?
Do you have t-shirts for boys? I think I'll buy one for my brother.
Let me see. Here they are.
This one is large. Do you have a medium size?
Let me see. Here they are.
That will be all.
Here's the bill. Thank you. Thank you. Please come again.
Shopping for clothes can be an enjoyable experience. It could turn out to be an instructive one too, especially if you are shopping outside the state or the country and are required to handle the conversation in English. Sample sentences in the conversation you just listened to will come in useful in such situations.
Please come in. What would you like to buy?
Please come in. What would you like to buy?
We would like to look at a few cotton sarees.
We would like to look at a few cotton sarees.
I would like to buy a block print saree for my mother.
I'd like to buy a block print saree for my mother.
I take this cream and black one.
I'll take this cream and black one.
How much does this cost?
How much does it cost?
Would you like to look at churidars, miss?
Would you like to look at churidas?
Do you have t-shirts for boys?
Do you have t-shirts for boys? As you complete the shopping, you tell the shopkeeper, that will be all.
That will be all.
The concluding sentences, here's the bill. Thank you. Please come again.
Here's the bill. Thank you. Please come again.
Another look at this conversation will be worthwhile.
Please come in. What would you like to buy?
We would like to look at a few cotton sarees.
Here are several varieties of cotton sarees. Do you have anything particular in mind?
I would like to buy a block print saree for my mother.
We have a good collection of cotton sarees which arrived this week.
I don't like very dark colors.
I don't either. I take this cream and black one. How much does this cost?
350 rupees, miss. Which one would you choose, miss?
This is a lovely cream, Lakshma. I like it very much.
I do too. Please pack this.
Would you like to look at churidars, miss?
Do you have t-shirts for boys? I think I'll buy one for my brother.
Let me see. Here they are.
This one is large. Do you have a medium size?
Let me see. Here they are.
That will be all.
Here's the bill. Thank you. Thank you. Please come again.
A little bit of functional grammar teaching is not out of place in the communicative acquisition of language scheme. It is not only not out of place, it is really important too. Therefore, in this episode, we will try to explain one or two important points regarding certain usages in English, particularly two usages, to and either. If sentences are negative or sentences with not, sometimes when we talk, we use the form either. I don't like milk. My sister doesn't either, or either. Similarly, in English, we make use of such small, unassuming words like to and either, but they are very important parts of the structure of the language.
Short additions are a part of ordinary speech, and we had discussed the formation of short answers in an earlier context. The use of to and either becomes relevant here. To is normally used with positive statements, while either is used in negative sentences. As you know, a negative sentence has a not in it or the implication of a negative idea. Short additions with to and either are formed by first identifying the verb or the verbal group in the sentence and then cutting off the sentence after the first word of the verbal group. This can be illustrated in the following sentence. They are going to the theatre. Supposing I want to say, I am also going to the theatre, I first identify the verbal group, are going, and form the short answer by stopping after the first word of the verbal group. I am going to the theatre, reduced to I am too. The common use of to and either may be noted in the sentences to follow.
They are copying the sentences.
We are too.
My mother enjoys TV serials. I do too.
I have enjoyed our tour so far.
We have two.
She is working on that book.
I am too.
He has written to the company.
She has to.
I didn't read the newspaper today.
We didn't either.
We aren't ready to leave yet.
I'm not either.
She hasn't watched that program on TV.
I haven't either.
My brother does not understand yoga.
I don't either.
The others weren't at the assembly hall.
We weren't either.
I can't speak German.
I can't either.
Sharmila writes lots of letters.
Rashmi does too.
They are copying the sentences.
We are too.
My mother enjoys TV serials. I do too.
I have enjoyed our tour so far.
We have two.
She's working on that book.
I am too. He has written to the company.
She has too.
I didn't read the newspaper today.
We didn't either.
We aren't ready to leave yet.
I'm not either.
She hasn't watched that program on TV.
I haven't either.
My brother does not understand yoga.
I don't either.
The others weren't at the assembly hall.
We weren't either.
I can't speak German.
I can't either.
Sharmila writes lots of letters.
Rashmi does too.
Let's go back to the amusing story of the mirror to further learn the use of to and either.
We have come to the end of this episode, and in the third part of it, we learned something about the small words to and either, and the way in which they are used in order to convey certain meanings in English. In that way, to and either are very functional and very useful to the language speaker.
Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityurma mritangamaya.